Up until this point, we have learned about graphing linear equations when they are in standard form, when they are in slope-intercept form. In this section, we're going to learn about a third option that you have when you need to graph a linear equation, and that is by making a table. So when we are graphing linear equations in this section, we're going to make an XY table, also known as an input-output table. And you should know this because we talked about in chapter 3 how all of your x values are your domain, or rather your inputs, and all your y values are your range, or rather your outputs. So calling it an XY table or an input-output table, it means the same thing. Okay, also known as a T-chart. So a T-chart is going to look something like this. Letter T, and on one side we'll have X, and on the other side we'll have Y. So our X and Y values, and together they make an ordered pair. You know, an ordered pair looks like this. Okay. All right, so before we jump into things, here I have a couple of steps for you in case you need to look at them. Quickly, let's just go over. Plug in each value for X into the equation. Write out the Y value that you found. Draw out your graph. So we need to create an x-axis and a y-axis. In these examples, you're just given blank graphs without an x or y-axis, so you can place it wherever you need to. All right, and I'll just tell you what I mean when we get down there. Plot all the points that are in your graph. Like I said, in a T-chart, they'll be an ordered pair, and then connect with a straight edge like we have been. So let's jump on down to number 51. We have the equation y equals negative 3x plus 4, and this is in slope-intercept form. So what you're going to do is you're going to plug some numbers in for x, your inputs, and see what kind of an output you get, what kind of an answer you get for y, all right? So the first thing you might be asking yourself, well, what numbers should we use? Now, when you think about this, your x values are going to be numbers that you plot on the x-axis. So thinking in advance, when you make a graph to plot lines on the x-axis, would you want to plot a point at 50 on the x-axis? No, there's not enough room. I mean, if we put our y-axis here and made this 0, do we even have 50 spots to go over to 50? No. So your graph is going to be much easier and much simpler to create if you choose some numbers that are close to the origin. Remember, your origin is at 0, 0 on the coordinate plane. So let's choose, by rule of thumb, always choose numbers that are around the origin. So the origin's at 0, and I don't know, let's choose -1 and -2, so to the left, and +1 and +2, 2 places to the right. That keeps it really close to the origin, and it guarantees that your graph won't get too crazy, okay? So these are going to be the output numbers that I want you to use all the time, unless for some reason the problem is making you use different numbers. And on a test or a quiz, I will always expect you to have 5. So no, you can't just do -2, -1, and 0. You've got to have all 5, all right? So you're going to 5 times, once for each number, plug that number in where you see x. So you're going to rewrite this equation 5 times, but where you see the x, you're going to leave a blank so that we can plug these numbers in. So I want you to take a second and rewrite this equation all the way down this column. Make sure you leave a blank for the x. Okay, so hopefully yours looks like mine. I left a blank for where my x was. And now I'm going to go through, and for each one, I'm going to plug in my input number or my x number. So here I need to do -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Now it's just a matter of doing the math and see what kind of output or y value you're going to get. -3 and -2 is +6 plus 4 is 10. -3 and -1 is +3 plus 4 is 7. -3 and 0 is 0 plus 4 is 4. -3 times +1 is -3 plus 4, and that's 1. -3 times +2 is -6 plus 4 is -2. All right, so what this does now is this creates an ordered pair. X, Y. So for example, this ordered pair is at -2, 10. This ordered pair is at -1, 7. You get it, etc., etc. This is at 0, 4, 1, 1, and 2, -2. So we need to first, before we can start graphing, we need to create an X and Y axis where it's going to work for us. All right. So looking at our X and Y values, our X values don't go past 2. All right. This one goes to -2 and this one goes to +2. So our X value can just stay right in the middle. Okay. It doesn't have to move. Let's just go right down the center here. Our Y axis. Okay. And our Y values, we have mostly positive numbers and only one negative down to -2. So where should we put our X axis? It'd probably be a good idea to put it somewhere towards the bottom of the graph because that allows us to go higher up in the positive direction so we can get all the way up to +10. If you put your X axis somewhere like maybe right here, you should be able to see that obviously you're only going to be able to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we're not going to be able to get all the way up to 10. All right, so hopefully you understand what I'm saying here. Let's put our X axis right here. That looks good to me. Okay, and now we can just go ahead and graph. So we've got -2, +10. So -2 and up 10. Okay, now we have -1, 7. Now, we've practiced graphing points for a long time now, so I'm going to stop here, and I want you to go ahead and finish graphing the rest of these. I'm going to fast forward. All right, make sure you connect with a straight edge, and hopefully your graph looks like mine. And that is it, folks. All right, let's look at another one. Let's look at 52. We're going to use the same numbers, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Yes, you need to use all 5 of them. Once again, I want you to rewrite this equation 5 times in the center column. Make sure that you leave a blank space where you see X. Go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so now that you have everything filled in, go ahead and do your math. -2, -2 makes +4, -5 is -1. -2 and -1 makes +2, -5 is -3. Go ahead and fill out the rest. Okay, so now we need to once again create our graph. We need an X and Y axis so that we can plot our points, plot our ordered pairs. So let's think about this once again. We're using the same numbers for our X values and they're right around the origin, so our Y axis can go just right down the center. Don't move it to the left or right any, just leave it right here. Now our X axis, that's going to depend on our Y value. So let's see, we've got a bunch of, actually they're all negatives. So you're going to want a lot of room in the negative direction. So a lot of room below your X axis. So let's put our X axis up high somewhere so that we have a lot of room to plot a lot of negative points, if that makes sense. Oh, my paper keeps moving around. Okay. So go ahead and pause the video and plot these points. Remember, it's going to look like this, -2, -1, etc., X, Y. So pause the video, plot your points, and then resume when you think you've got it. Okay, hopefully your graph looks like this. And just a quick check to make sure this is something that you could do to make sure that you are graphing correctly is to look at the slope from the equation. This slope was -3, so that should be a downhill line, and it is. This slope is -2, so that also should have been a downhill line, and that one is also. So we're graphing correctly. If you graphed this and you had a line going uphill and then you saw, oh wait, my slope is negative, then you know that you did something wrong. So that's just a quick, easy way that you can check yourself and make sure that you're doing things correctly. So let's move on to the last page. I'm going to do one more with you, and then I'm going to leave number 54 for you to try on your own. So number 53, once again, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. So let's rewrite the equation 5 times, leave a blank where x is. Be very, very careful with this one. That negative should be on the outside of the parentheses that you leave for x. All right, so leave it on the outside. Ready, go. Okay, let's look at this. We have negative times a -2. This is double negatives. This is like saying this is -1 here. All of these should say like -1, -1, -1. Okay, so -1 and -2 makes a +2 plus 3, and that's 5. -1 and -1 makes a +1 plus 3, and that's 4. You get the idea. Keep going down. 0, 3 is 3. So let's look at our values and figure out where we should put our x and y axis. We've got, once again, the same 5 numbers for our x column, so leave your y axis somewhere in the center. Right here is good enough for me. And then your y values, these are all positive, so put your x-axis, I mean, honestly, it could stay in the center because you're not going up to a very high number, it's just 5. But I would move it down just a little bit just to be consistent with the idea that if we have positive numbers, we need a lot of room in the positive direction. And the positive direction is up. Okay. So let's graph this. We have -2, 5. Go ahead, pause the video and graph your points so you know how to do that. All right, and that's how this graph should look. Okay, once again, let's check. This is a negative slope, so it should be a downhill line, and it is, so that's great. Okay, number 54 is going to be yours to finish. One little hint, this is a slope of 4, which is a positive number, so make sure that when you graph this, you have a line that goes uphill. If it doesn't go uphill, you're doing something wrong, so check your work, all right? Don't forget to do the summary questions.